Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Unmasking Your True Self. I'm Elisa Bogarts, your guide on this journey to discovering the most genuine version of yourself. Each episode is a step towards unveiling the incredible power that lies within you as we strip away all the shoulds and shine a light on the coulds. Together, we'll explore the path of self-empowerment, self-confidence, and the courage to be unapologetically you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about changing your reality. And my guest today is Deepak Saini, who is a dear friend, and he's a mental and physical performance coach. He helps clients optimize mental, physical, and financial performance. And having spent many stressful years in the corporate world and overcoming an autoimmune condition and a back injury, he brings a unique perspective to working with his clients. When this father of two is not spending time with his family, he is staying at the forefront of emerging cutting-edge health research. Deepak is also a speaker, podcast host, which I've been on his podcast. Y'all should go listen to it. A writer and working on becoming a Centenarian. Welcome, Deepak. So glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Long overdue. So yes, I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. So yeah, tell me how you got into this field of work and just, why you're so passionate about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as a my first profession was a CPA. So I was an accountant for, 20 plus years in corporate finance, corporate accounting, et cetera. I was always the chubby kid growing up. 18 years old, I was morbidly obese, 100 pounds heavier than I am now, and
Wow.
chronically sick as a kid, ear infections, throat infections, bronchitis, at least that's what they called it, right up until adulthood. I get, sick for, 4 times a year for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. That's a big chunk of your year where you just really,
Whoa.
really can't do anything. And I could go to work, but I just couldn't exercise and couldn't do activities, et cetera. But what really came to head for me was in 2014. My youngest daughter was just a baby at the time. I hurt my back so bad that I had no flexion in my back, which means I couldn't bend over at the waist. I couldn't pick up my 10-pound daughter out of her crib. So
Aw.
yeah. So it was really a low point for me. So not only could I not like do the activities I like doing, like golfing and running, it was very painful and difficult to get in and out of a chair, which includes like even off the toilet. But I couldn't pick up my youngest daughter. I couldn't play with my older daughter. So that was a real low point for me. I didn't recognize it myself at the time, but probably looking back, I probably was in depression. But I didn't really, get stuck in that too long in the muck of that. I really wanted to like be there for my children and get back to the activities I love. So, I really just made it my mission to heal my back. I like to say the Western medical system wasted 18 months of my health. Ineffective treatments, run around through the system, misdiagnoses, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't until I really took matters into my own hands. First, that started with paying out of pocket to get an MRI done and see what was actually wrong with my back and sort of figure it out. And eventually, that led me to doing PRP or platelet-rich plasma treatments for my back, and I can talk about that if you want. But in doing the PRP, also came across the notion of inflammation, and if bringing down inflammation throughout my body would help the PRP work better. Um, and so the number one way that I figured I could bring inflammation down that I could control was by what I was eating. So my nutrition. So I went essentially cold turkey, and I'm air quoting here for people who obviously this is audio only, but I'm doing air quotes, eating clean to bring inflammation down. And lo and behold, not only did it help with the PRP treatments itself, but my the last 60 of the 100 pounds that I've lost just melted away in a matter of months, and my
Wow.
autoimmune condition went into remission. I literally haven't been barely been sick in the last 10 years, and that includes all during COVID and all this. So, that was a real aha moment for me, but it wasn't until my, coworkers, business associates, colleagues, etc. And of course, people never see the internal struggle. They only see the outside, right? The weight loss. That's all
Right.
people saw. but they, started pulling me aside and like, hey, like, what are you doing? Can I take you for coffee? Can I take you for lunch? And I started like informally kind of mentoring people, like, read this book. This is what I learned. Try this. Have you tried that? Etc. And after that, doing that for a while, I was like, I kind of like this a lot more than being an accountant. And there was a lot of things going on with the company I was at the time and industry, etc. So I decided, to, hey, you know what, I'm gonna give this a whirl. So I got some early certifications, and what we now, everyone has heard this term now, side hustle. Nobody was talking about, no one knew what that term was back in 2017, 2018. But I started working with people who were like me, weight loss, back pain, early on. But as I evolved myself in what I want for my life, and as you mentioned in my bio, I have a public state goal to be a centenarian plus, so living to 100 and beyond. Other people started who had that type of vision and desires for their own long-term health started being attracted to me. So that's evolved over time and how I work with people, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. But essentially in 2018 I went to coaching full time and left the corporate world, and that's high level my journey of from sick and unhealthy fat CPA to who I am today.
Wow. Yeah, quite the transformation. It's so good to hear more of that story. I've heard that because like bits of it in the different presentations that you've done, but yeah, so interesting. I didn't realize it was the inflammation that really was the turning point. And it's so true. Like in the times where I've done like a little clean eating challenge or something like that, because I used to also be a health coach, so I've done a couple of those programs, and it's really about removing all that anti-inflammatory food and some of it you don't even realize that you could be eating all the time, like tomatoes, for example. They can cause inflammation, right?
Absolutely, and there's no one size fits all, and like I said, it's changed. So what I how I ate to sort of lose that, that's the last 60 of those 100 pounds that I have lost to what I eat now is completely different. And I've
Right.
just basically essentially maintained my weight for the last 9 years now. But yeah, everyone's different. Some people like spinach is like kryptonite to me.
Really?
Legumes are kryptonite to me. For other people, that's what all they eat. And some people it's tomatoes, like you mentioned. Some people it's dairy, gluten, whatever. Right. So I'm really big into like finding out for the individual when I work with my clients what is really their kryptonite foods that's going to cause them inflammation or other health issues.
Yeah, that's so important to figure out. I love that you said that. It's like just not a one size fits all. And you need to figure out what actually works for you. I remember when I did that cleaning challenge, and then it was about like reintroducing fruit. So sort of like, you take everything out of your diet, eat super clean, and then introduce one thing and see how it makes you feel. And I remember yeah, this day where I reintroduced gluten, and oh my gosh, I felt so awful. Like it was incredible, like how it completely just like fogged up my brain. I had headaches. I was in an awful mood. Like it was just like I was like, wow. Because sometimes I think that when you're kind of used to, not that I'm like feel like that way all the time, but it was just this stark difference. But like now, whenever I do eat gluten, like I don't notice it as badly, but I always think that I'm like, what is this doing to me?
Yeah, you bring up two interesting points there, Lisa. I would say probably gluten is, for many people, is like the number two like detrimental thing that we can eat as a society, and there's a variety of reasons for that. That's point one, and then point number two is that sometimes people, whatever that transformation is for them, that like clean eating challenge or removing something or whatever the case may be, and they're like, they did realize like I don't even remember how it felt to feel good because we were in a fog or a haze for so long. And that's part of my story too. Is like once I kind of came through my journey, and I was like, oh my God, the world opened up to me. The possibilities opened up to me because I wasn't in chronic pain all the time or low level pain, the brain fog, which I didn't even realize was brain fog because I just thought that was normal. Once that's all lifted, you're like, oh my God. And then, that kind of totally leads to a different growth sort of mentality that
Right.
I then had, go forward.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting how things become a norm and we don't even realize that it's wrong. It's kind of sad.
Absolutely.
So you very much like me in 2024 made a bit of a pivot with your business this year, and somehow you changed it over a weekend. Tell us a bit about that. How did that happen?
Yeah. So for anyone who's, whether you're a professional of some sort or you're in some sort of coaching space or health space or whatever, many people are going to be familiar with, the concept of continuing education. right? So again, I used to be a CPA, so and whether you're a lawyer or engineer, whatever, you kind of have to do these continuing education courses to like maintain your professional status, et cetera, et cetera. Same with in the coaching field, type of thing. So I have a number of certifications on the health and coaching side, and I'm always having to do these things. So a good friend of mine, actually, we were talking about her earlier before we hit the record button, was I was talking with her, and she's like, well, why don't you take my program to get these? And I said, well, I don't know if this is a fit, whatever. So anyway, long story short, I did her program, and I was going to get certified in three modalities, and it was an intense 8-day program. So basically, what some programs would teach in like once a week over the course of 3 months. This is an 8-day intensive, all crammed in, and
Wow.
write the exam, et cetera. And then you're certified in three different modalities. So it's kind of like a Friday, the whole week to like the Sunday. So and I was like, this is interesting, this is good, et cetera. And honestly, and I've told her this before, I've shared this story before. I'm like, I'm sort of interested, but I'm not really care to be certified in these things. If I get them, great. I'm really here to get continuing education credits. Like that's the only reason that's a primary reason. But on the second weekend, so kind of days 6, 7, 8, all the material, all the concepts came sort of just all sort of solidified for me. And it was like a light bulb moment. I was like, oh my God, like I could totally use this with my clients. And
Hmm.
that's even evolved a little bit as well. But originally I was thinking of like just my health coaching clients. I'm like, I totally could use this. And it kind of came to a realization that now that I have these tools, I can't not use them with people. It would be like almost, you know, criminal not to use these tools that I have available with my clients. So literally over that last week and those last 3 days, I changed my business model of what I'm going to be offering and how I'm going to be offering it. So I was always very good at the tactical and the strategies, and now implementing what I'm calling the inner game work first makes the sort of the more tactical, strategic things work so much better once you deal with the inner game first.
So what were the modalities that you added to your?
Yeah, great question. So it's timeline therapy, which some people may or may not have heard of, neuro linguistic programming or NLP. Many people have heard of that, and hypnosis. So I'm a certified hypnotherapist, timeline therapy practitioner, and NLP practitioner as well.
Wow, cool. And which one do you like the best? Or which one do you think is maybe more effective?
Oh, great question. Well, we always start with timeline therapy to get over any traumas, limiting beliefs, hidden emotions, that sort of thing. And then we move into sort of NLP, and then sort of hypnosis is kind of like the icing on the cake for any habit
Okay.
changes and that sort of thing. So I think the biggest impact is with the timeline therapy. So um, I would say that's probably my favorite, and probably the most effective, because there's so many things that people have. Like, let's be honest, if you're over 12 years old, you probably have trauma of some sort. And there's big T and there's little t, and some things we don't even remember and they're suppressed. And when we clear those up with people, they just show up so much differently in their life and then in their businesses, et cetera. So yeah, it's probably timeline therapy.
And for our listeners that maybe don't know what is timeline therapy?
Yeah, so people are going to be familiar with lots of different therapies, and they all work. They're all fantastic. So, I'll just maybe pick on one for a second, like talk therapy or some form of that, where you're kind of having to relive the event and get through it, and sometimes it's very time consuming and very emotional reliving the event.
Mhm.
Timeline therapy, if you want to think like a string of beads or like a like pearl necklace or something like that, you see have like a string, which is the timeline, and then all the little beads or pearls are events. So what we do in timeline therapy is to go back to the very first event of a certain emotion. Let's use anger as an example. The very first time that your subconscious mind, so we're dealing with the subconscious mind with all three of these modalities, and
Okay.
your unconscious mind go back to the very first event where you have anger. And for most people, this is going to be before the age of 6 or 7. Sometimes for some people, it's at birth, and even in some cases, it's a past life. And so the unconscious mind, when you really get into your unconscious mind and relaxed and are open to that, go back to that first thing, and then you clear the emotion, and in this case, in our example, anger, of that first event. And then we move all the way to the timeline, every single event that your unconscious mind is associating with anger, right till the present moment. Now, does this mean you're going to like forget these. So in some cases, you might not have even remembered this was an event for you because it was so suppressed by your unconscious mind. And maybe you did remember, maybe it was something horrific or what have you. And that doesn't mean you're going to forget that this happened to you. It's more about how you present yourself go forward. So if some event that happened when you were a child is, and somebody says something to you and that's a trigger, and it might not make any sense in our logical mind of why that's a trigger for you, but it does trigger us. Now you're going to respond differently to that same trigger because you've cleared up the negative emotions around it. And there's 7 negative emotions that we focus on in a very specific order. And then we deal with limiting beliefs and stuff like that with timeline therapy.
Wow, cool. That sounds so interesting. Yeah,
It
especially
has been pretty
like
profound, even for myself and some the breakthroughs some of my clients have had. It's quite amazing.
yeah. And the whole like subconscious mind, kind of like getting into that because there's so much in there, right? Isn't it like over 90% of our brain or something?
Yeah, 96% of our mind's capability, mind's power, if you will, is the unconscious mind. And people are tapping into that all the time without even realizing it.
Right.
But most people spend most of their day in their logical mind, which is, maybe 10%.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow. So yeah, there's such a cool pivot. I remember, yeah, when you were doing it and talking about this whole like, changing your reality and I just thought it was so neat. So congrats on making that pivot.
Thank you.
And so who do you kind of work with now?
Yeah, so essentially there's 3 main clientels I work with, and but they all have a common theme, which is this inner game work. So I'll just very high level before happy to answer any further questions. So I work with high level entrepreneurs, so people that are doing multiple 6-figure, 7-figure businesses with my Vitality Unleashed program. So it's a year-long program and follows my TIME methodology, TIIME, which stands for testing, inner game, implementation, mastermind, and evaluation at a high level. So that's one thing. So the inner game is part of that. I also work with people just strictly on the inner game. So just strictly, so this is what I call my change your reality. Whatever you're struggling with, whether it be a health issue, weight loss, procrastination, limiting beliefs around your business or any other personal life. So that's a standalone as well, where I work on, again, using timeline therapy, NLP, and hypnosis. So that's also standalone. And then, funny enough, because of my past business background as a CPA and 20 years in the corporate world, many of my past health coaching clients started asking me for business advice and marketing advice and stuff like that. And of course, I'm obviously a marketer as well. I market my own services. So kind of accidentally, I started, business coaching people, and more people keep coming to me for business coaching as well. So that's almost a third vertical. But here's a little bit of a twist. Besides the many, and there's lots of great business coaches. I have my own business coaches. I know you do as well,
Mhm.
Elisa. But the thing I offer is also that inner game work. So even when they're feeling that imposter syndrome or that procrastination to actually do the work they need to do, I can bring in the inner game work. So that's an added thing that I think differentiates me a little bit from other business coaches as well. So essentially 3 different services, but they all encompass using that inner game work.
Yeah, it's so true because with like, there's some business coaches that maybe do some mindset work, but not really like the inner game like you do, right? They don't maybe like go as sort of like deep as you might go to really help somebody.
Yeah, and I think all that mindset stuff, and without mentioning names, Lisa, we have a common person in contact in common, and they do that some of this mindset stuff, and that's all great. And but what often it's quite fleeting. You might get kind
Mhm.
of raw for that rest of that day or the rest of the week, or maybe like a couple of weeks, then you kind of revert back to your old habits. That's
Yeah.
why using some of these tools to get to the root cause of what is causing you to procrastinate. I mean, and let's be honest. It doesn't mean you're never going to procrastinate again, or you're never going to be frustrated, or whatever your limiting belief is. It's just it's going to be less often, and how long you're stuck there is going to be way shorter than in the past. So again, I think it's a total different game changer than just your typical mindset work.
Yeah. 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 I think that's awesome. And the thing, yeah, it's just so important. And those are like the yeah, I like how you bring it both because like with me, I don't dive into that too much with my sort of business coaching, but I do like I have, so partners that's all they do. And so like sometimes we combine, but I like that you bring both because sometimes, you just need that inner game. Sometimes you need to really work on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
So,
been so beneficial for myself too. Like I, even just going through the program, I mean, that's part of getting certified, and of course there's our exams to write, etc. Was practicing these modalities in our fellow students, and I had just in 8 days, miraculous transformations just in myself by having a fellow student, you know, work on me, right, and vice versa. So yeah, it's quite powerful.
yes, yeah. When I was doing my initial certifications, I did like a health coaching one and a life coaching one, and then I decided to go into their mastery program where they call it like a mastery level coaching. And we went into like we tapped into some of what you were talking about. They kind of created their own sort of modality that had lots of different bits of things, not hypnosis, but um the others and just I think it was maybe like 10 different modalities that they sort of combined and made their own thing. And we did the same thing. Like you had to practice it. You had to have so many hours of practice, but then we practice on each other. So like, and I think that's, really, um, even when I decided to switch to confidence coaching, that's kind of what did it. Cause I was like, wow, this deeper work is just so incredible. And the transformations I have, I just totally fell in love with it.
Yeah, Lisa, can I share one example really quick for the
Yeah,
audience
of course.
that might. So one of the things using hypnosis was so again, I've been on my journey. I explained that earlier. I eat pretty healthy and everything, but even myself, I could be someone. I love peanut butter, and peanut butter is a kryptonite food for me.
Mhm.
Sort of your conventional, store bought peanut butter, crunchy. I'm a crunchy guy, but I would like get my bowl of celery sticks or my bowl of apple slices, whatever, and I put like this just a heaping amount of peanut butter on top of it. Like I have as much peanut butter as I had like celery. Or whatever, and I eat that whole thing while I'm watching a video or doing some training or reading or whatever the case may be. I'd eat so much peanut butter because I just love it. It's right. Um, that I'd feel sick for like hours, and it would cause inflammation because it's a kryptonite food for me. And I'd just be like,
Right.
oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? So when the time came, I was like, you know what? I want to get rid of this. So basically, my fellow student, used these techniques on me and basically made my unconscious mind not desire peanut butter anymore. So we basically implanted a suggestion, if you will, that peanut butter, my unconscious mind is now associating peanut butter with something else that I would never want to put in my mouth. And that's, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago. And I haven't even, it's not like peanut butter makes me gag or anything like that, like just looking at it or whatever, but I have no desire to reach for it anymore. So
Wow.
and my kids love peanut butter too. So for a family who would eat like a jar of peanut butter like every week to 10 days, peanut butter is lasting a long time because I don't touch it anymore. So
Yeah, eating half of the jar. I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's just, yeah, shows how incredibly powerful it is.
yeah, and for someone who's tried um, everything for weight loss, I mean, this potentially something like this could be just one tool that they could use. I mean, there's other things to work on for weight loss in specifically, but if there's a certain trigger food or something like we can swap it out and you will not eat that thing again.
Wow. Yeah, so like on the subject of changing your reality, do you have sort of like a tip on someone on how someone could do that? Like what's sort of like a takeaway that someone could take, like an action that they could do?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like really be open about it. Um, I run a series of workshops on, talking about some of the things we talked about and some tips along the way and that sort of thing. Um, and many people like say they want a different life, whether it be financially or I want to grow my business or I want to lose weight or whatever the case may be, or any other health or business related type of thing. But like, are you really going to commit to it? Um, and I think when people really lean in and commit to they actually want to have it, they actually want to change the reality, then miraculous things can happen. And in association with that, like many people also, just because hypnosis is one of the tools and probably the last tool to use, many people are resistant and like I can't be hypnotized or whatever. And it's like, no, if you're already telling your unconscious mind that you can't be hypnotized, you're resisting it and then you won't be able to. Like 99% of people have the capacity to be if they're open to being hypnotized for what the change they want. And again, being hypnotized is just one of the modalities, but I think it's really just like being open to the process that you say you actually want. Many people say stuff that they want and they're actually not committed to it. So if you're really committed to making that change, whatever it is for you, lean in and actually commit, and great things can happen for you.
Yes. And like, how can we sort of seal in that commitment? I know there's some different things. Actually, I was just speaking with a coach yesterday about that. And I think one of the ways that you can try to seal in that commitment is like, doing a visualization. Like if I have this thing, or imagine what it would be like when you have what it is that you want, and actually really picture it and think about that future you and that vision, that thing that you want. And think about it all the time, right? Or even like some people have it written out and posted somewhere. Or they have like a vision board, or maybe even just a picture that reminds them of it. And they have it in places in their house to remind them of that vision, which is like a way to kind of keep motivated towards, and to stay committed to that. Do you have any ideas for that, like a different way to keep the
Yeah,
commitment?
absolutely. It's funny you should mention that. I was coming out with a new guide, and it's
Mm.
debunking personal development myths. So again, we talked about the mindset and how like that's great, but sometimes it's fleeting. The
Mhm.
visualization piece you mentioned, that's great too, but if it's not done the right way, it's very fleeting, and there's a very specific way to do visualization that most coaches actually don't teach you that way. And I was taught this visualization, and it never worked for me. And then I realized why, because I was taught how to do it the wrong way. So I don't want to give it away because this guide is going to be out available, and it's a free guide, but I don't want to give it away. But yeah, there's a lots of things that people think they're doing right, which again is not that it's wrong. It's just how long is it going to last? I'd rather do something that's going to have longer lasting and greater effect for me.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, we want it to something that we can use and we know that works. Yeah, and actually will hold, because if it's, yeah, you have to continually do it all the time, that becomes work as well, which makes you want to not do it.
Exactly, exactly.
So, this is my sort of final question, like kind of bringing it back to authenticity, and like, because I was just thinking about your journey, right? And you had such an incredible journey, and even changing your business, or changing, like leaving corporate into your business, switching it to it now, and your incredible health journey. What does authenticity mean to you, and how has it kind of played a role throughout your life?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question. I think to some degree, myself, like all of us, and specifically myself, we're always authentic to some level. But I think when we are in some level of pain, and we can define pain however you want to define it, I'll just going back to my younger self, right? There was the pain, the stigma of being overweight, of being bullied about my weight, of not being able to, attract members of the opposite sex because of my weight, all these type, and the low level pain, the actual physical pain of like low grade inflammation in my knees and back, and etc. When we have those, we can't, I don't think, be truly fully authentic. Sometimes in some instances, but like for like all the time, I don't think so. And I'm speaking for myself here. We kind of can put on a bravada, or a mask,
Mm.
or that type of thing. And then as I've gone through not only the physical journey but also the emotional, and hey, I'll be the first to admit I'm not perfect. I'm still working on that all the time, my own personal development. That's gotten a lot better. So I think I'm definitely more authentic than I was going through this journey, and working on myself. And there's a ways to go still. And I think, just what does authentic mean? It's like, be who you truly know in your heart you want to be, and or you know you know again, I've two young daughters, and the oldest is just turned just a teenager this year. Like, who do I want to be for them? What kind of role model do I want to be for them? So, be authentic, and so that, does that mean I make all the best decisions? No, it doesn't. But I try and make the best decisions, for myself, for my family, for to be a role model for my kids, for my clients, etc. And sometimes that means also like, no, I will not promote this thing or partner with this person. That probably leaves money on the table that I'm not taking. But I was like, it's not, doesn't resonate with me. It's not authentic to who I am to do X, Y, Z things, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I'd rather be authentic. There's only just me, and I have to live with myself and with my loved ones. And so just I try and be the best version of me I can, and that's always ever evolving. So it's kind of a rambling answer. I hope that answered the question.
No, no, you make some really good points about how it is ever evolving, how and we're always changing as people. We're always learning and growing, and life happens, or we do some personal development course, or we learn how to do visualization properly, or whatever it may be, and things start to kind of unfold, and we change and we adapt, and therefore I think who we are and who we are authentically, or what that means, or maybe something gets revealed, being like, oh yeah, actually that's kind of what I'd rather tap into, or that's how I'd rather be authentically. Um, I think that, yeah, that's just a really good point. Like as we grow, it continues to grow with us, and it changes. So yeah, just always being aligned to that, and thinking how it
For
aligns to
sure,
your
for
authentic
sure. And we'll
self.
never be perfect, but it's just, get back on your trajectory as quickly as possible.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, well, thank you so much for this. We talked about a lot of things. We learned all about like timeline therapy, and really like a lot of talking about how the inner game is really so important for, our personal development, for our professional development, for like everything. So if ever you're feeling stuck, like the inner game is what you actually got to work on. And then we talked about it all about like really having that commitment, and how you can be committed. So Deepak, where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, Elisa, can I just give a gift to all your audience members as well?
Yes,
And,
please.
and I think this is a great way to like also find me. So I have a guide for creating 7 new healthy habits, and I implore the audience: do not try all 7 at one time. Pick one, maybe two, and there's a little bit of a description of the rationale and the benefits of these habits. And then there's at the back of the guide, there's a tracking sheet. So you can track it for 30 days of how you did. And after the 30 days, you can like, yeah, this resonates with me, and you've created a new healthy habit, or yeah, that wasn't for me. That's fine too. Go back and pick another one. And then over a number of months, you'll have tried all 7, and maybe a handful of them resonate with you, maybe they all do, and you've created some new healthy habits. So that can be, I know we'll put the link in the show notes or what have you, but it's Deepak Saini Health. So my first name, last name, health.com/freebie. And you can grab that guide, take use of it, and that puts you in my ecosystem as well. And then you'll know everything I'm all about and what I'm up to go forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Yes, we all want healthy habits. And I love that idea that like not everything works for you, but you're not going to know until you try it. So give one a go, you know, add it to your life for 30 days, and then maybe it'll be fantastic, and maybe not so much. And then just pick the next thing. It's such a good
Absolutely.
way of looking at it. No forcing. So do you have any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think just in the theme of kind of what we've been talking about throughout the episode here is, if you don't have everything you want in life, or maybe your life is blessed, um, but it could still be better. I really like implore the audience to like look inside, look into your heart, look into your mind, and see what is holding you back. And that could be many things. It could be, stress, and there's many hidden sources of stress we didn't even talk about today. It could be, limiting beliefs. It could be trauma. And if it's some of those things, then find someone to work with and get over those. Because trust me, life is better on the other side. And even if things are good, they could always be great.
Yes, that's right. Always the next level, right? What's next?
Absolutely. Always looking to up level myself.
Yeah, me too. And I think we all should as well. Well, thank you so much, Deepak. It was so wonderful having you here. I'm so glad that we made this happen. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being on.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.